can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Just waiting for the doc to ring in from Sydney, Don, and we've got... we've been doing this, so this is... So we're just waiting for the doc to ring in. Max is here because the football season is starting, and we thought while we're waiting for the doc...
We'll get an update on football?
Yeah, we'll get an update on football because you're right across it. I know that, Don. So what's happening, Max, in the football?
Good morning. Hi, Don. How you doing? Long time no see.
Get on with it.
Get on with it?
Oh, shit. We're abrupt today, aren't we? Or is this normal?
Because in 2 minutes, the doc is going to ring in. Go ahead.
Well, a big talking point that's happening over the weekend is the MCG turf. That's all been ripped to shreds and it needs to be re-turfed because of the Ed Sheehan concert. He had 2 nights where he got about 100,000 at the MCG, and the turf is all muddy and ripped up. So there are preparations around to get that sorted for Thursday, and everything's a bit up in the air.
So when's the first game of the season?
This next Thursday. So not tomorrow, the next week.
How much does the MCG charge, say, Ed Sheeran or his handlers to rent the MCG for those 2 concerts? Do you know, Max?
I would have no idea off the top of my head. I'm sure it's different with everyone in terms of percentages. But the MCG may have taken a cut of the people who walk through the door.
You're making that up, are you?
I'm just assuming because I don't have the actual answer.
That's right.
I thought the MCG, now correct me, you went to the Shane Warne funeral. I went to a big ball that was held there, the centenary of football, and they laid, oh geez, you're a control freak, they laid a false floor. Wouldn't they do that for Ed Sheeran as well?
I think they did. I still think it still got muddy and ripped up, just with the amount of people that were on it.
Go on. So they've relayed the turf. Is that the big football news, Max?
Well, that's some football news in 2 minutes. I can go into detail what's going on.
Go into detail until the doctor rings.
Well, football, it kicks off with Carlton and Richmond. It might be another competitive hit-out like it was last year. So that's
what's that, Max? What was that generic statement? At what?
It might be a competitive hit-out, as in it might be even, it might be close, which is always good
Max,
for the
if you're going to come on and talk football, don't speak in jargonistic language which means nothing. Of course it might be a close hit-out, and it might not be.
Well, it wasn't for a good 15 years. It was always lopsided. It was always lopsided.
But don't they do traditional rivalries? What are the other opening games?
Collingwood and Geelong are on the Friday.
Well, that's not a traditional game.
No, but it was a good game last year. I think that's what the AFL is trying to do. So obviously Essendon plays Hawthorn round. Oh
yeah, they build that up as nothing from the 80s.
Yes, because it's nothing like
that's football. The least of the worries about the AFL. They're into wokeism, and the fans have had enough of the AFL's wokeism. Is
there anything specific?
The survey they did, they said, for God's sake, stop browbeating us about inclusion, diversity, equity, being woke, and the AFL said no, we're knuckling down on having pride games, we're honing in on the racism aspect of football. They are so insincere, they are so false with all this nonsense. They never learn. They are just the feigned indignation about what they think the public are interested in, when the public are only interested in going to the football. They're not interested in yelling out racist taunts over the fence. They're not interested in. You may as well ask the AFL. Are they interested in? Do they concede that there's such a thing as birthing persons? Do they into transgender sport? Are they into...
if you were to ask all these questions, who would you
gender
ask them to?
realignment? We'd have someone who represents the AFL to stand up there and say, how far do you want to go with this bullshit that you carry on with? And how many times can we thank the First Nations people at a grand final and pay tribute and respect to more than 3 times at a grand final? Could we just stop dividing the community and just put the game on and stop browbeating the public? The public have spoken. They did a survey, they said, could you stop
Where
all
was
the
this survey
bullshit?
printed?
And when was it?
It was. I'll just get it up. I'll get it up for you. I'll just get it.
Coincidentally, there is no. If you voice all these concerns, there's no AFL CEO at the moment. That position's been open for 2 months. Maybe you could go apply for it. That might be the doctor.
Here we go, Don and Max. Can you hear us, Doc?
Loud and clear.
Now, Doc, no one would know that you're ringing early, but you're not about to go and get a promotion up at the top office, are you?
Yeah, I've been called to a meeting with the bosses today, Sam and Don. So
anything to do with us?
Oh well, it could have something to do with you. They
don't come on.
They have raised this podcast once before, actually, in previous discussions I had with them. One of the bosses said, "How often are you doing that Sam Newman podcast?" And I said, I don't know, every week or so. They said, "Don't you think that's a bit excessive, considering that we pay you?" And I said, well, why don't I do it every second week? And they said, "I don't think you're really understanding the message." And I said, no, I choose not to, no. So no, it should be okay. But you never know in this business, Sam and Don. I mean, in football, in media, in life, you can be called to a meeting 1 minute and discover you're packing up your boxes the next.
Oh, and you won't be called to be packing up, but they might say they mightn't want you to be associated with us.
Oh, well, they may wish a whole range of things, Sam, but I'm my own man at the end of the day. So
that's what we're hoping you'd say.
I'll talk to whoever I choose to talk to. Thank you very much, Don. Ooh. You've always operated that way, haven't you?
And I haven't got any friends.
None. I can vouch for that.
In fact, I've learned the hard way over the years. You know, when you stand up to your boss, because I've stood up to plenty of bosses over the years. I don't know whether you boys have done the same, but I've stood up to plenty of them. But you know that moment when you realise, hang on a moment, this is a losing battle. There's no way in the world that I'm going to win this one. So sometimes you go in all guns blazing, which is usually the way I go in. But then there has been the odd occasion when I've realised, oh, holy hell, the temperature in this room is so hot. And at the end of the day, they're the boss and I'm not. So I have had the odd occasion where I've gone in thinking there's no way in the world I'm going to cop this. And then 15 minutes later I go, okay, well, you sound like you're a lot more passionate about this than I am. So,
Doc,
thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.
If I could give you just some advice from a man who's a pensioner. So I'm not trying to tell you how to operate, but never call someone's bluff unless you know what the answer's going to be.
Oh, that's true. Very, very true. Yeah, I had a bloke a few years ago. I was being asked to fill in for Tracy Grimshaw on A Current Affair. So I was doing the Drive radio show, finishing at 6 o'clock, and then I'd race to Channel 9 and fill in for Tracy. Anyway, this boss of mine, Russell Tate, who is no longer in the radio business, but
Tate.
Really, really good bloke. In fact, I had lunch with him at the end of last year. Russell called me and said, "Who approved this?" And I said, "Oh, no one." He said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I'm paying you all this money to host a radio show." And I said, "Yeah, but it's not interfering with it.
Cross-pollination.
I'm just filling in. I'm just helping out Tracy, helping out Channel 9. And he said, "Well, mate, I don't like it." And I said, "Oh, okay." Anyway, so I said, "Well, anyway, it's not for long, I mean, I've agreed to do this week." And so anyway, then on the Friday night he tuned in and he saw me at the end of the show on A Current Affair say, "Anyway, that's all we've got time for tonight. I'll catch you next week," right? Anyway, he sent me a text and he said, "You're doing it next week too?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "If you appear on A Current Affair on Monday night, do not turn up to 2GB on Tuesday."
Ooh. Did
and
you
I
call
sent
his
him a note
bluff?
saying, "Oh, no, I realised he meant business." So I said, "I don't understand, Russell. What's the issue?" And he said, "Did you not understand what I just said? If you choose to turn up on that show Monday night, do not turn up to do your radio show on Tuesday." And I said, "No worries. I guess I'm cancelling the Current Affair appearance for next week." So, you've got to realise when people... And you know what? Often in life, I sort out any minor disputes I might have by asking myself the question, does this mean more to me or does it mean more to them? And if it means more to them, then I'm usually okay with going, all right, well, forget about it. I'll move on.
Mind you, Doc, if you thought you were indispensable, you would have said, Russell, I am going to do Tracy another favour this week and I am going to appear. So you make your own arrangements. And that would, as I say...
The only problem for me is that I wasn't being paid anything to do the fill-in for Tracy. I was being paid by Russell. So, you know, at the end of the day, you've got to weigh these things up and think, all right, well, you know, does it really matter that much to me?
Is Russell still in the trade?
Yeah, Russell's still involved. He's not involved with 2GB anymore. But, yeah, I caught up with him at the end of last year, and he's always doing something. He's sitting on boards. Russell was, you know, one of John Singleton's good mates. And
I know Russell.
An old school operator. You know those operators where they do it very differently to the way it's done these days. In fact, I remember many years ago, and I don't know whether Russell will be happy with me saying this, but anyway, it's too late now, Russell, sorry. But many, many years ago when he was running 2GB, they got rid of the HR department, right? They just got rid of it. It was gone, right? And then when someone asked him, they said, what's the go? And he said, well, you know, if there's no HR, there's no complaints.
Exactly. I had a bet with Russell, a bottle of Grange, that Donald Trump would become the President of the United States. And he actually rang me and said, do you want the Grange? I said, no, but appreciate you offering and remembering the bet.
You didn't claim it?
No. No, well, it was just... I was ready to wrap it up and post it up to him, I can tell you that, but I didn't have to. Now, how appropriate that you would have filled in for Tracy, because do you know today is International Women's Day? Or Women's Day.
Yeah,
I don't know.
International Women's Day. Of course it is today.
I presume that's biological women. I don't know if you pretend you're a woman, you fit into that category. But that's why it's a moot point as to whether it is who qualifies to be a woman these days, and Women's Day, International Women's Day.
Yeah, well, there would be certainly a feeling amongst some women that they would like International Women's Day to be for biological women.
Yes.
But as you know, that's being challenged in all sorts of quarters at the moment. And you know what? The gender fluid movement and the pronouns and everything else, I mean, it's got to such a silly degree now that I saw a video yesterday from the United States where a teacher has posted a thing up on the front of the class explaining to her students that she wants to be referred to as them, whatever that means.
Yep.
I mean,
it's
if
boring.
If that's your thing, then can't you just deal with it in your own life? Do you really need to be indoctrinating these children and trying to confuse them with all this stuff? We even had a singer by the name of Sam Smith, who's a good singer, by the way, but he's been in Australia recently, and he came out and said he's into fishing, right? And he was doing an interview on UK TV, and they said, oh, so you're a fisherman? And he said, no, I'm a fisher them.
Yep.
Fisher them. I mean,
it's boring,
Nick
mate.
Kyrgios came out yesterday and said, bro, I'm cringing on your behalf. I mean, it's become almost laughable.
It's become boring because there's people just projecting, just trying to get noticed. It is so nonsensical. And if you've got 2 X chromosomes, you're a woman, and that's it, or you're a female. And that's what Women's Day should be about. Have you done anything?
But also, if you're a fisher, then what's a manhole? Is a manhole a them hole?
Yeah, well,
manhole's a thing in the road, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, like,
yes, Don.
It's got man in the title. I mean, is it a chairman or is it a chair them now going forward?
Well, what happens if a woman's flying a plane and she goes up to the cockpit? What does that mean?
You know, there's an all-female crew that took off from Melbourne today on a Virgin flight. And it's not the first time we've had all-female crew, but they've got all women, everything from the refuelers to the mechanic to the women in the cockpit to the women serving everyone on the plane. Apparently it's the first time it's happened that from the top to the bottom, every single role filled for this certain flight on International Women's Day is all women. So congratulations to those wonderful women.
It is too, congratulations. And having said that, if they are the best people to fly and service that plane, well, all power to them. That's why it's the meritocracy and not a quota system. If they are the best people, then good on them.
Absolutely. And how good's a woman in uniform?
Oh, extraordinary.
Oh, we're not allowed to say that anymore.
Well, how good's a woman out of uniform?
Are we going to be cancelled now, Sam and Don?
Oh, well, we can't be cancelled unless someone takes us off the platform we're on. You can. This is what the boss might want to speak to you about if he actually.
Yeah, he might be.
Checks into
He
this.
might be cancelling me. Now, Don, are you well? You're a little bit quiet today. I get worried
quiet.
when you got quiet.
I'm just waiting for a break to ask you what the position is on bestiality in Spain. Did you read that they're about to amend? They may amend their penal code to make bestiality legal.
You mean what, you get sex with animals?
This may shock you, Don, but out of all of the research I've been doing for my radio program this week, I have not been looking into anything relating to bestiality in Spain. Somehow that missed the memo or the agenda, so I didn't get across all of that. But
Doc, we mentioned last week, and this is absolutely factual, that Spain is the first European country to give women time off for menstrual time off. For their,
I heard you talking about that. That's
a fact. That's the first. That maybe that was in recognition of International Women's Day coming up.
Well, you know what? I mean, I'm never going to know what it's like to experience period pain. So, as a bloke, I tend to kind of shy away from those discussions a little bit. You know, I know it's a thing, and if women need to take time off work to deal with period pain, a pain that a man is never going to have to deal with, then I've got no complaints with that.
Hang on, Doc. This is open to exploitation. You say a man's never going to have to deal with it. What happens if a man who transgenders into a woman and says, I'm a woman and I've got a pain in my stomach, I don't know what it's from, but I reckon it's period pain or it's a referred period pain and I want a week off. I mean, this is such nonsensical
Well, I mean, if people
shit.
are exploiting it, if people are exploiting a system, then obviously you look out for the people who are exploiting the system. But I suppose, could blokes have time off for things like erectile dysfunction? Because that's something that only blokes will experience. If that was causing you some kind of discomfort, if it was causing you, mental pressures and whatever associated with the erectile dysfunction, could you have leave for that?
Well, what do you mean? You couldn't get it up, Doc, and you just had a week off to give it a beating and see if you can get it into something that might resemble a hard-on? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, that's not exactly what I was saying. Was I saying that, Don? I didn't say anything about it.
No, he's taken a little bit of liberty.
How would you have a week off for erectile dysfunction?
I think there'd be a lot of unemployed people walking around or people on holiday, wouldn't there?
Now, Doc, what about this? There's a reason I'm saying this. Do you know in airports now, in terminals, they have got dog toilets or animal toilets where you take your animal, your comfort animal, into a area. It's got fake turf and a log so that the dog can either piss on a log or it can have a crap and
Sam, you can't have it both ways. In one breath, you don't want the dogs pissing up against the wall and against the furniture when you're out enjoying a coffee. And then they set up a special room for the dogs to take a leak, and now you're complaining.
This is in the terminals, in the airports.
I don't care where it is.
So why would you
can't have it both ways.
My word, you can. Why would you take a dog into a terminal in the first place?
Well, it might be a seeing eye dog.
Oh, seeing eye dogs are trained not to do all that sort of stuff. This is.
Oh, what? They just hold it in, do they?
Well, they do, as a matter of fact.
Would you prefer the dog taking a leak on the aeroplane when you're sitting there in 1A?
What, a seeing eye dog?
Yeah.
That would be the only animal I would allow on a plane would be a seeing eye dog. If you can't fly any distance at all without having a comfort animal sitting on your lap and annoying the shit out of everyone, when you apply to fly somewhere, do you ask, do you allow animals on the plane? Do you ever ask that question?
I've never asked that question before, but look, the anxiety animals, the comfort animals, I mean, this is another example where people have just taken it to a crazy degree, and then of course other people are going to say, well, I've got an anxiety iguana, or I've got a comfort possum, or whatever else. Someone tried to get a peacock on a plane once. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I'll look it up and I'll I'll tell you about it. We might have even spoken about it.
Someone's tried to get a small horse, a Shetland. They did that, mate. There's pictures of. This is the public. The public are just taking the piss out of all those people who kick up about all this sort of stuff.
Have a listen to this. Here, I've got it here. This is from United Airlines 2018. A female traveller was recently banned from taking a large emotional support peacock on board a United Airlines flight. She had offered to buy the bird its own plane ticket, according to the travel blog, but the airline refused to let the bird board the flight, saying it didn't meet the guidelines due to its weight and its size. Imagine a peacock, particularly after a few drinks. Imagine after having a few drinks on board the plane, the peacock would go absolutely cuckoo.
Cuckoo. What a place to put the peacock, up in the cockpit for the peacock.
Hey, I've got one for you as well, boys. Can I tell you about this one? I'm just diving into some of the stories that I think are worthwhile on the podcast. We can be a little bit critical of people from time to time, including celebrities. I've just had a go at Sam Smith, the singer who's a fish of them. But we need to give a rap to a couple of superstars who've been down under in the last week or so. One of them is Ed Sheeran, who is a good friend of Shane Warne and Michael Gudinski. Another one is Harry Styles, because these two blokes have set a great example for international superstars and how to interact when they're down under. Harry Styles sung The Horses, made famous by Daryl Braithwaite, and then Daryl was invited up on stage as well. He's even been wearing one of those Bunnings hats, you know, the big wide brim hats that you get from Bunnings when he was up on stage. Ed Sheeran has been visiting children's hospitals in between performances around Australia, and over the weekend in Melbourne, he got the whole crowd singing Throw Your Arms Around Me, which was made famous by the Hunters and Collectors. So can I just say, we might give some grief to international celebrities, but Harry Styles and Ed Sheeran, 2 thumbs up for the way you've conducted yourselves when you've been here in Australia, and the fact that you've shown your respect to people like Michael Gudinski and Daryl Braithwaite and Hunters and Collectors. I think both of them have been outstanding.
Now, we've just, in recognition of International Women's Day, Fiona Byrne has just come in. I think she was driving elsewhere, and when she heard you were on, she's made a beeline for the studio. She's got some sort of thing going with you, only over the phone, only over the airwaves.
Now, Phoebe, is Phoebe there? Hello, Phoebe, how are you?
Ben, I'm great, and Sam is telling the truth. I realised that you were on air today, and I was like, I'm coming in to talk to you.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Now, listen, have you got any more gossip about Married at First Sight? I mean, what's going on that show? And what's wrong with the men of the world? I mean, there are some utter duds and scumbags who seem to appear on these reality TV shows. And I'm not singling out the blokes, but you know what? I'm singling out the blokes. What a bunch of morons half of them are.
Ben, thank you for saying that. I need to ask, I think I need to put it out to the boys actually, what is wrong with the men of Australia? Where are the good ones? Because we see some decent fellows that turn up on these dating shows, but gosh, there are a few of them that just don't put their best foot forward and wonder, you know what, it's just like, I don't know, there seems to be this attitude that we're watching on particularly Married at First Sight of, look, if someone doesn't sort of, you know, float your boat from the get-go, get rid of them. Just move on to the next one.
But, okay, let me just flip it around. Are there some women out there who have this checklist where they want the bloke with the muscles and the six-pack, they want the soft, caring guy who they're going to cuddle up to at night, they want someone who's already made $1 million before they've turned 25? Are there women out there who also have this checklist that might be getting in their way between them and finding love?
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, that's an honest answer.
No, it's true. Absolutely. But I think, I'm going to say, I think a lot of it comes back to the, I'll call it the dating app attitude that
Tinder.
has, well, Tinder, Hinge, Binge, whatever. Oh, not Binge, Bumble, whatever. But I think it's, you know, that short attention span. It's like if you don't tick all the boxes straight away, on to the next one. Just keep on swiping. And I think, you know, a relationship takes a bit more effort than just to, you know, swipe on an app.
Married at
Have you had a go at any of those dating apps?
Oh, I'm not a dating app person at all.
Yeah, because I've had a go of one of them. Jodie's got a friend called Bonnie, And Bonnie's a real character. She's lots of fun. And she was telling me one night about being on the dating apps. This is when they were relatively new. And I said, show me. So I just sat there and played around on her phone, and I was swiping left and swiping right on blokes as they'd pop up. I mean, I'm too old to kind of, I was never single when these apps ever existed. But I don't know. I reckon I would have had a bit of fun with them back in the day.
Oh, my God, Ben, you would have been reported as someone who was impersonating Ben Fordham.
Oh, well, because I've always met people in the workplace, and these days, and boys, you'll have a view on this, I mean, these days they really try and educate staff not to muck around with other staff members. But I've always been a big believer in fishing off the company wharf.
Not to muck around with company staff members, Ben. That's a nice way to put it.
Well, you know what I mean?
Don't turn them over out in the back.
When you spend as much time at work as I do, I mean, Jody and I met because we were both working at the same radio station. The girl that I was with just before Jody, I also met her through work. The one before that I met through work. I mean, my first ever girlfriend I met through work. I mean, if it wasn't for work,
God, jeez,
I'd be absolutely single and lonely.
Well, there's another saying too, you don't shit in your own backyard.
Thank you,
Don, you've got such style.
Don, can we have some kind of standard?
No, this is why the Doc's probably been called up to the top office, Doc. Because if you're going to... You could have said this is why you don't eat at a restaurant. Oh, I don't know what I'm saying.
No, Don's his own unique character. I mean, we need people like that in life.
Yeah.
No. Don, whatever you do, mate, don't go changing, because whatever you've done to this point in your life has served you well. You've got a cult following out there. I mean, when people bump into me and they bring up the podcast, they very rarely even mention Sam. They just talk about Don. How good's Don? We love Don. If only there was more Don. And if you only knew how to use the microphone, then we'd be able to hear more of you.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Now listen, you two, Doc and Fiona. I've been doing a channel flick on... And I tried to ring you, Fiona, to discuss it in the middle of, what is it called, Married at First Sight.
Yes, but I couldn't take your call.
Now, what about these women, their enhancements, facial enhancements and also bodily enhancements? What are you going to get yourself? You talk about getting home, or what are you getting?
Have you had anything done, Doc? Have you had anything done, Doc? Have you tarted yourself up?
But I've got a warning for all women out there just on the enhancements, but I'd like Fiona on International Women's Day to handle this question first. Fee?
Okay, well, Don, look, if people want to go and have filler, Botox, implants, goodness knows what, let them do it. It's their choice.
Well, what's happened, Fiona, is I'm looking at all women on TV, and I look at a lot of reporters on the news channels down here, and they've had enhancements done as well.
Don, I'm going to jump in here. It's not just women. Men are having work done as well.
Men?
Men, yeah, well,
yes.
Sam, sorry.
Who's, what?
Don't forget him.
What?
He's had things done to him.
Yeah,
that's why we don't look alike.
Oh, excuse me.
That was one of the main reasons it was brought up.
I've spoken plenty of times of what I've had done to my face as a result of being punched in it.
Yeah, but you're doing it for a reason. I'm talking about these people,
well, they do
women,
it for a reason, to keep themselves
what?
Appealing to the viewer, whether they're men or women.
If we believe in freedom, we believe that people should be allowed to do what they want, right? But that's not going to stop me from offering just a little bit of feedback. To women out there who go down the enhancement path, good luck to you. Happy days, do what you want. But can you just do me a favour? Lay off the lips.
That's what I'm on about.
The big lubra lips.
I've sat at traffic lights and I've looked across to my right and I can see the silhouette of the person in the car next to me. And I can tell, even just looking side on at the traffic lights, I'm like, what's going on with your lips? And here's the breaking news for any ladies out there who get the lips done. When you come up and talk to us and when you walk away, when you've just had the lips done, you know what blokes say to each other? What the hell's going on with her lips?
Well,
whereas when it's other parts of the body, blokes are probably more inclined to think, oh, well, that looks nice.
And if the women brake hard at the lights, they'll stick themselves to the windscreen.
They will not. Ben, this is the Kylie Jenner effect. Kylie Jenner is the single biggest influence on women having filler in their lips, and she is absolutely the driving force behind all of this. I spoke to an American plastic surgeon a couple of months ago, and he said that she is the most influential person in the world when it comes to
filler.
Comes to procedures on young women.
That doesn't mean to say
Can I also say, just to jump in on Married at First Sight, the men on Married at First Sight now, not all of them, but there's certainly some that are, they are using cosmetic enhancements as well.
Really?
Because it's a big thing now for some of those guys
So
in the
what are they
reality
doing?
TV
Tell me
circles.
what-
They're having their hair tattooed on.
Hair
so,
tattooed?
some of them have got receding hairlines, and so it's quite a big thing of getting scalp tattoos now to, suggest that they've got.
Yeah, I mean, you've also
Short
got a
follicles up there,
lot of blokes who are on the juice as well. So they use steroids to pump up the muscles and things like that. Each to their own. If
Doc,
that's what
have
you
you
really
had
want to do, go for your life.
have you had any enhancements done to you in any way at all?
Yeah, I did have a reduction done some years ago, but that's a private matter, and I've got to go. I love you all, and I've got to go and see the boss. I'll find out whether I've still got a job in about half an hour from now. Love you all.
See you, Doc.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot. Righto, now we've... is he off?
He's off.
So, all right. You sure he's off?
Yes.
Yes,
Not
I've got it in front of me.
that it matters if he isn't, but we're not... So, well done, Phoebe. So here we are. We've...
International Women's Day, I'm here.
No one will know
That's
this,
not
but
a-
the
that's
doc
not
is
why
the
here, is
first.
it?
The doc
Please.
is the first interview, the first thing we've done today, because Don was just got in here about an hour late. But doesn't matter, mind you, because we haven't broached any subjects at all. So what we might do we want to stop this now, Don, and we'll have a break, and then we'll start proper. Phoebe, now that you're here, and what we might do right now while the phone's there. Ricky Nixon apparently lost his licence. Let's just see if we can get him and ask him what's going on with him, because here, I'll give you.
doing it.
You got his phone number there?
Yep.
Where is it?
Yeah.
Righto, ring him up. And is it going to go on here?
I will make it. Yes.
All right,
We're
I
calling
don't
him
know.
now.
He doesn't know. Just see if he answers. I don't know if he is going to. Well done. How'd you do that, Max? He probably won't answer the phone because he'll think we're going to belt him around the ears, but we're not. Come on.
Hi, the person you have called
Would you
is
like to
not
leave a message?
available. Please leave a short 10-second message after the tone and we'll send the message as a text.
As a text.
It's Podcast Sam. Ricky, we wanted to know just what was going on with your licence. We might ring you back. Answer the phone if we do. Right, hang that up, please, Max. All right, so there we are. So what would you have said to Ricky if he'd been on the phone, Phoebe?
What?
I don't think you're a great fan of Ricky's, or not?
I've known Ricky for more than 20 years. We get along well, but I just think sometimes Ricky should just grow up. That's what I think.
He's taken over from Darren Hinch, who used to be the human headline. Ricky, I think, hangs his hat in it. He looks at it as a badge of honour.
So tell me, what has he done now?
Well, he lost his licence because he didn't appear in court to answer some sort
A
of
speeding charge.
And so we'd ask him just
So he's got a few priors in that regard.
what we were going to do.
No,
we would
actually,
get-
no. He doesn't have. I don't believe that's the case. I don't think he's got a long history of driving
As
issues
is
at all.
the fairness of what we do, Phoebe, we thought we'd get his side
Yes.
of the story, and then if it doesn't fit with what we think, we might say to him, "Surely that's bullshit, Ricky." But no, we'll give him the opportunity to tell us if he answers the phone. Give him another go, Max. Just one more go, and then we'll hang up. Then we'll just come. We'll end up. Just see if he answers the phone. So anyhow, this is the doc was the first person we spoke to, and so we have got a whole lot of topics that we're going to speak about. All right.
Hi, the person you
Righto,
have
that's
called.
it. Thank you. All right. Well, then we'll.
Anyone else want me to try calling? I can go through the contact list here. Let's have a look.
Thank you, Max. Don't be a smart ass, mate. So Max is in here because the football has...
Yeah, you've said that.
Have I said
And we've
that?
talked about football. Do you remember us talking about football before the doc came on?
Yeah, all 90 seconds of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Asking me not to be vague. What do you want me to go in depth about in 90 seconds?
All Max said was that they've relayed the turf on the MCG. I said that's hardly football news.
But you were hassling him. He's got a lot of other
I
things.
was hassling him because I wasn't.
Because that's what he
hassling
does,
him.
Don.
I wasn't hassling him. You knew the doc was going to ring in early because he's gone. The doc's been called up to the top office. We think it's for him to be told not to come on the podcast, Phoebe. That's what we think. So anyhow, we're going to hang up. We're going to stop this now, and so all bets are off. Here we go.